August 24th, 410 AD. You are standing in the greatest city the world has ever seen, and tonight, it burns. But this moment, this single night, didn't happen overnight. It took 500 years to get here, and you lived through every single one. Stay with me, because by the end of this story, you won't just know why Rome fell. You'll feel exactly why no empire, not then, not now, lasts forever. Let's go back, way back. You were born in Rome, 100 AD, the height of the empire. The reign of Emperor Trajan. Open your eyes. What do you see? Roads. Perfect, straight, endless roads stretching from Britain to Babylon. 50,000 miles of them, built by men who believed they were building forever. You are one of 1 million people living inside these walls. 1 million. In a world where most cities held 10,000 people at most, Rome held 1 million. You wake up every morning to fresh water flowing from 11 aqueducts. 300 million gallons every single day, pumped uphill through mountains using nothing but gravity and genius. You don't pay for it. The empire pays for it. You don't worry about food. The grain ships from Egypt arrive every month without fail. 150,000 tons of grain per year, enough to feed the entire city for free. This is called the annona, the free grain dole. A third of Rome receives it. You are one of them. And right now, in 100 AD, life is good. Life is very good. But nothing in Rome is truly free. You understand this instinctively. Every grain of wheat that reaches your table was grown by slaves. Every road that connects the empire was built by conquered peoples. Every aqueduct stone was carried by men who had no choice. Rome is not just a city. Rome is a machine that runs on conquest. And right now, at its peak, that machine is running perfectly. The empire stretches across 5 million square kilometers, from Scotland to Saudi Arabia, from Portugal to Persia. 70 million people, all under one eagle, all under one Rome. But here's what nobody tells you. Even at its absolute peak, even in the golden age of Trajan, the cracks were already forming, tiny, invisible, but there. The empire was simply too big for one man to rule. Messages took weeks to travel from Rome to the eastern borders. By the time an emperor heard about a rebellion, the rebellion had already won. And the army, the magnificent Roman army, was stretched across 5,000 miles of border. Every mile needed soldiers. Every soldier needed paying. And the treasury, even Rome's limitless treasury, was not limitless. This is where your story begins. At the top, at the peak. Because the fall, the real fall, always starts at the top. Always starts when nobody is looking. Always starts with something so small, so invisible, that everyone laughs at the people who see it coming. And in 200 years from now, everything you see around you, the roads, the water, the bread, the eagle, the glory, will be gone. Every single piece of it, gone. The question is not if Rome falls. The question is, could you have stopped it? Next, the emperors start killing each other. 26 emperors in 50 years. And you are right in the middle of every single one. Remember where we left you, 100 AD. Rome at its absolute peak. 1 million people. Free bread. Free water, the greatest empire ever built. Now fast forward 80 years, just 80 years, and watch what happens when power has no rules. You are now living under Emperor Commodus, 180 AD, and something is very wrong at the top. Commodus, the son of the great Marcus Aurelius, has declared himself a god. Not just any god, Hercules himself. In the flesh, walking among men, he renames Rome after himself. He enters the Colosseum personally, the emperor of the known world, and fights gladiators, kills animals with his bare hands, forces the Senate to watch and applaud every single time. The senators sit there, Rome's most powerful men, watching their emperor slaughter an ostrich, then turn to face them, holding the severed head, smiling, as if to say, you could be next. And you, a Roman citizen, you hear these stories in the markets, in the bathhouses, whispered, never spoken aloud, because speaking aloud gets you killed. Commodus is finally assassinated on the 31st of December, 192 AD, strangled in his bath by his own wrestling partner, paid for by his own advisors, his own people. That's how bad it had gotten. And what comes next is something Rome has never seen before. Something that will repeat again and again until the empire cannot survive it anymore. Bodyguards realize something terrifying. They don't just protect the emperor, they make the emperor. They can give the crown to whoever they want. So they do something unthinkable. They put the throne up for auction. You heard that correctly. The throne of Rome. The most powerful seat on planet Earth, sold to the highest bidder, like a market stall, like a sack of grain. A man named Didius Julianus Octavianus wins the bid. He outbids everyone, offers every soldier 25,000 sesterces each, a fortune, and just like that, he is Emperor of Rome. He lasts 66 days before he is executed. Now I need you to feel something here. Really feel it. Between 235 AD and 284 AD, just 49 years, Rome has 26 different emperors. Say that again slowly. 26 emperors in 49 years. That is one new emperor every 2 years on average. Most of them are murdered by their own generals, by their own guards, by their own sons. You are living through this. Every 2 years, a new face on the coins, a new name to swear loyalty to, a new set of enemies to be afraid of. And every time an emperor dies, the army picks a new one. But not just one army, 3 armies on 3 different borders, each one picking their own emperor, each one marching on Rome to prove their man is the real one. This is called the crisis of the 3rd century. Historians call it that. Clean, academic, distant. But you are not a historian reading about it safely from the future. You are living it, and it does not feel like a crisis. It feels like the end of everything. Here is what nobody in the history books talks about enough. While the emperors are killing each other, the money is dying too. Roman coins used to be made of pure silver, 100%. Under the good emperors, Trajan, Hadrian, Marcus Aurelius, you could trust a Roman coin completely. It meant something. It was worth something. But paying 26 armies for 26 emperors costs money Rome doesn't have. So they do what broke governments have always done. They cheat. They melt the silver coins and mix in cheaper metals, copper, lead, tin. By 268 AD, Roman silver coins contain just 2% silver. 2%. The rest is worthless metal with a thin silver coating to fool the eye. And the people know it. Merchants refuse Roman coins. Farmers demand payment in grain instead of money. Trade, the blood of the empire, starts to slow, then stops. You watch prices rise overnight. Bread that cost 1 sesterce now costs 10, then 50, then nobody will sell it at any price. And then, as if Rome needed one more enemy, the disease comes, the plague of Cyprian. 249 AD. Nobody knows exactly what it was. Smallpox perhaps, or something worse, something we have no name for. At its peak, 5,000 people per day are dying inside Rome alone. 5,000 every single day. The streets fill with bodies faster than they can be buried. Farms empty because the farmers are dead. Armies shrink because the soldiers are dead. Tax collectors stop collecting because everyone they visit is dead. You cover your face with cloth when you go outside. You stop going to the baths. You stop going to the markets. You pray to gods who seem to have stopped listening. The Colosseum sits empty. The great roads fall quiet. The aqueducts keep flowing because nobody is left to break them. But the water runs through empty streets to empty fountains in empty squares. But here is something the story always forgets to tell you. Rome doesn't give up. In 270 AD, at the absolute lowest point, a man named Aurelian becomes emperor. And in just 5 years, he reunites the empire, defeats 3 separate breakaway kingdoms, drives back the barbarians, builds a massive new wall around Rome that still stands today, and restores the silver content of the coins. The people call him Restitutor Orbis, restorer of the world, and they mean it. For one brief, brilliant moment, it seems like Rome might actually survive. It seems like the machine might be fixed. It seems like the story might have a happy ending. Then his own officers murder him. 275 AD, of course they do. This is what the fall of Rome actually looks like. Not one dramatic moment, not one battle, not one bad emperor. It looks like this: 1,000 small betrayals, 1,000 tiny corruptions, a coin shaved here, a general bribed there, a plague ignored, a border abandoned, until one day you look up, and the thing you trusted most in the world, the thing that gave you water and bread and safety, is hollow, completely hollow, and the wind is coming. Next, the barbarians stop knocking on the door. They walk right through it, and Rome, for the first time in 800 years, has no answer. When we left you, Rome was hollow. The coins were fake. The emperors were dying faster than they could be crowned. The plague had emptied half the streets, but the walls still stood. The eagles still flew, and most Romans, most ordinary people like you, still believed it couldn't end, still believed Rome was eternal. That belief, that beautiful, stubborn belief, is about to be tested in ways nobody thought possible.
First, you need to understand who the barbarians actually were, because Rome called everyone outside its borders a barbarian. The word literally meant someone who speaks strangely, someone who says bar 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 instead of proper Latin. But these were not savages, not wild animals, not mindless destroyers. These were people, complex, organized, desperate people. And they were desperate for one simple reason, like something was pushing them far to the east, further than most Romans had ever traveled: the steppes of Central Asia were changing, the climate was cooling, the grasslands were shrinking, and a people called the Huns, the most terrifying cavalry the ancient world had ever seen, were moving west, pushing everything in front of them like a hand sweeping pieces off a table, and the pieces, the Goths, the Vandals, the Franks, the Alemanni, had nowhere to go except into Rome. 376 AD. This is the moment everything changes, the moment historians argue about to this day. A Gothic leader named Fritigern stands on the northern bank of the Danube River. Behind him, 200,000 people, men, women, children, Goths fleeing the Huns, terrified, starving, carrying everything they own, and he sends a message to Rome: let us in, we will serve your empire, we will fight your wars, we will defend your borders, just let us in. Emperor Valens thinks about it. He needs soldiers desperately. The Roman army has been shrinking for decades. The plague took thousands, the civil wars took thousands more, and here, right here, is 200,000 potential soldiers begging to serve Rome. So he says yes, he opens the gate, he lets them cross the Danube, he welcomes them into Roman territory, the single most consequential decision in the history of the Western world. But here is where Rome, the machine, the system, the empire built on perfect organization, completely fails these people. The Roman officials assigned to feed and settle the Goths steal the food money. They sell the Goths dog meat at 10 times the normal price. They take Gothic children as slaves in exchange for scraps of food. 200,000 starving, desperate people who came to Rome asking for safety and were being robbed and humiliated by the very empire they swore to serve. The Goths revolt. Of course they revolt. Fritigern leads his people in open rebellion across the Roman Balkans, burning farms, destroying supply lines, defeating every Roman force sent against them. Emperor Valens, furious, embarrassed, underestimating, marches out personally with the full Eastern Roman army to crush this rebellion once and for all. He doesn't even wait for reinforcement. August 9th, 378 AD, Adrianople, modern-day Turkey. The Gothic cavalry, which Valens didn't even know existed, returns from a foraging mission and hits the Roman flank at full gallop. The Roman legions, the unbreakable, unstoppable, legendary Roman legions, shatter like glass. 2/3 of the entire Eastern Roman army dies in a single afternoon. Emperor Valens himself is killed on the field, his body never found. The Emperor of Rome, dead in a ditch somewhere in the Balkans, never recovered, never buried, just gone. Every military strategist from that day to this agrees on one thing: Adrianople was not just a battle, it was proof that Rome, the military machine that had never truly been beaten in open field battle for 600 years, could be beaten. And once something that was thought impossible becomes possible, it becomes inevitable. 395 AD, Emperor Theodosius dies, and he does something that seems practical at the time, something that makes perfect administrative sense. He splits the empire between his two sons. Arcadius takes the east, Constantinople, Egypt, Syria, the rich half, the stable half. Honorius takes the west, Rome, Gaul, Britain, Spain, the struggling half, the half with all the problems, the half with all the barbarians pushing at every border simultaneously. On paper, two emperors are stronger than one. On paper, the empire is simply being managed more efficiently. But you, living in the west, you feel it immediately. The eastern money stops flowing west. The eastern armies stop helping western borders. Constantinople looks at Rome's problems and decides, quietly, diplomatically, that they are Rome's problems, not theirs. The East survives. The East actually thrives. The West begins to die. But even now, even this far into collapse, Rome produces one last hero. His name is Stilicho, half Roman, half Vandal, supreme military commander of the Western Empire, and quite possibly the most capable general Rome had seen in a century. For 15 years, 395 to 408 AD, Stilicho personally holds the Western Empire together through sheer will, military genius, and relentless warfare, defeating Alaric's Visigoths twice, stopping invasions across the Rhine, keeping the machine running on nothing but his own determination. But here is Rome being Rome one final time. The Emperor Honorius, a weak, paranoid, deeply stupid man who kept chickens as his closest companions, is convinced by jealous courtiers that Stilicho is a traitor, that he is secretly working with the barbarians, that he wants the throne for himself. There is no evidence. There has never been any evidence, but Honorius believes it, because Honorius is exactly the kind of man who destroys the people trying to save him. 408 AD, Stilicho is arrested, executed without trial. The last man who could have saved Rome, killed by Rome. The wolves outside the gate hear the news, and they smile. Alaric the Visigoth had been circling Rome for years, negotiating, demanding, being paid off, being ignored, being paid off again. He didn't actually want to destroy Rome. That is the extraordinary thing. He wanted to be part of it. He wanted a military command, a title, recognition. He wanted Rome to say, "You matter. Your people matter. You have a place here." Rome refused every single time. Rome's answer was always the same. "You are a barbarian. You do not belong here." So Alaric decides to make Rome change its answer. 408 AD. Alaric surrounds Rome, cuts the food supply. Inside the walls, 1 million people begin to starve. The Senate, desperate, sends negotiators. Alaric's price? All the gold in Rome, all the silver, all the silk, every single piece of barbarian slave inside the walls. The Senate asks, "If we give you everything, what do we have left?" Alaric's answer is the most famous line of the entire collapse. 3 words, "Your lives." The Senate pays. Alaric leaves. Rome breathes again, tells itself it survived, tells itself the worst is over. But Honorius, stuck safe behind the walls of Ravenna, surrounded by his chickens, refuses to negotiate further, refuses to give Alaric what he actually wants: a place, a purpose, a home. Alaric comes back. 409 AD, surrounds Rome again. The Senate pays again. Alaric leaves again. Then Honorius does something so breathtakingly foolish that historians still struggle to explain it. He has Alaric's ambassadors murdered. Alaric turns around for the 3rd time, but this time, there are no negotiations, no demands, no price. This time, Alaric isn't coming to talk. August 24th, 410 AD, the night we started with. The night you are standing in the greatest city the world has ever seen, watching it burn, and here's the detail that changes everything. The detail that makes August 24th, 410 AD not a military defeat, but something far more devastating. The gates of Rome are not broken down. They are not smashed by battering rams. They are not climbed by siege ladders. They are opened from the inside by Roman slaves. People Rome had conquered. People Rome had owned. People Rome had decided did not matter. Who walked to the gates in the middle of the night and simply opened them? The Visigoths walk into Rome, unopposed, unchallenged, through gates opened by the very people Rome forgot to value. And the Eternal City, the city that had stood for 800 years, falls silent. You are inside Rome. You have been inside Rome your entire life. Your parents were born here. Their parents were born here. 7 generations of your family have lived and died inside these walls. And right now, in the darkness, you can hear them. Not screaming, not battle cries, not the clash of weapons. Footsteps, thousands of footsteps, walking through streets that have never, in 800 years, heard a foreign army march. You blow out your lamp, you push your children into the back room, you press yourself against the wall, and you listen. Here's what actually happened during those 3 days, because history has a habit of making this moment more dramatic than it was, and simultaneously not dramatic enough. Alaric had given his men specific orders: no killing of civilians who did not resist, no burning of churches, no destruction of the great monuments. Alaric was not a destroyer. Remember, he wanted to be part of Rome. Even now, even here, even walking through its undefended streets in the middle of the night, he still wanted Rome to mean something. So the Visigoths moved through Rome like a tide, systematic, purposeful. They take the gold, they take the silver, they take the silk and spices and treasures accumulated over 8 centuries of conquest. They take everything Rome had taken from everyone else. The great irony, the almost unbearable irony, is that most of what Alaric's men carry out of Rome was itself stolen, taken from Carthage, from Greece, from Egypt, from Jerusalem, from 100 conquered peoples who are now, 8 centuries later, getting it back. But here is what cannot be replaced. Here is the real loss. Not the gold, not the silver, not even the lives, because relatively few Romans are killed in these 3 days. The real loss is something you cannot hold in your hands, something you cannot put in a wagon and carry away. The idea of Rome, the belief held by every person in the known world for 800 years, that Rome was eternal, that Rome was different, that Rome was protected by the gods themselves, that Rome could not fall because Rome was not just an empire. Rome was the order of the world, the shape of civilization itself. Saint Jerome, one of the most important Christian scholars of the age, hears the news in Bethlehem. He is in the middle of writing a book. He puts down his pen. He cannot write. He cannot think. he cannot pray. He writes to a friend, and his words survive to this day. The city which had taken the whole world was itself taken. It seemed as if I was sharing the captivity of the saints. The greatest scholar of the Christian world, brought to silence by 3 days in Rome. Alaric leaves after 3 days. He takes his people south. He plans to cross to Africa, the breadbasket of the empire, and establish a Gothic kingdom. He never makes it. He dies of fever 6 months later, somewhere in southern Italy. His people bury him in a riverbed, diverting the river, burying him with his treasures, then releasing the water back over him, so no Roman can ever find his grave and desecrate it. His grave has never been found, not in 1,600 years. It is still down there, somewhere under an Italian river, waiting. But Rome does not end with Alaric. That is the thing people always get wrong. The sacking of 410 is not the end. It is the beginning of the end, and the end, the real end, takes another 66 years. 66 more years of slow collapse. Province by province, border by border, general by general, Britain is abandoned. 410 AD. Roman troops simply told to defend themselves. The letter from Rome arrives and says, "We cannot help you anymore. Look after yourselves." And the Britons, who had been Roman for 400 years, watched the last Roman soldiers march to the coast and sail away, never to return. And then, just when Rome thinks it cannot get worse, Attila arrives. 440 AD. The man his own people called the Scourge of God. The man who made emperors pay tribute like peasants, who burned 70 cities in a single campaign, who crossed the Rhine, crossed the Danube, marched to the gates of Constantinople, and made the Eastern Emperor pay him in gold just to leave, then turned west, toward Rome. 451 AD. Attila leads the largest army seen in Europe since Alexander. 500,000 men crossing into Gaul, modern France, burning everything. Orleans, Metz, Reims, city after city, gone. Does something nobody expected. It fights back. General Aetius, the last great Roman commander, does the unthinkable. He allies with the Visigoths, the same people who sacked Rome 40 years earlier. Romans and Goths, side by side, against a common enemy. The Battle of the Catalonian Plains, June 451 AD. The largest battle in the history of the ancient world. 300,000 men, fighting from dawn to dusk. The rivers running red, the dead piled so high that men fight on top of the bodies of men who died fighting that morning. Attila loses. For the first and only time in his life, Attila retreats. He comes back the following year, marches on Rome itself, gets to northern Italy, and then, in one of history's most extraordinary moments, Pope Leo I rides out to meet him, alone, unarmed, just an old man in white robes riding toward the most feared conqueror alive. The sources disagree. Some say Leo threatened divine punishment. Some say Attila's army was sick and starving. Some say he was paid. Whatever happened, Attila turns around. He goes home. He dies the following year, 453 AD, of a nosebleed on his wedding night. The most feared man in the world, killed by his own blood. 476 AD. This is the date in every textbook. The official end. The last Western Roman emperor is a boy, a child of perhaps 14. His name is Romulus Augustulus, a child named after the beginning and the peak of everything. Sitting on the throne at the very end, a Germanic general named Odoacer simply walks into Ravenna with his soldiers. No great battle, no siege, no dramatic last stand. He tells the boy, "You are no longer emperor. Take off the crown." Sends him to a villa in southern Italy with a pension. The boy emperor lives out his days quietly, growing old in a villa, in a world that no longer needs emperors. Odoacer does not crown himself emperor. He does not appoint a new emperor. He sends the crown of the Western Roman Empire, to Constantinople, to the Eastern Emperor, with a note that says, "There is no longer a need for this in the West. One emperor is enough." And the Eastern Emperor, busy, practical, unsentimental, accepts the crown, files it away, and gets on with his day. That is how Rome ends. Not with fire, not with a final battle, not with a hero's last stand, with paperwork, with a crown in a box, with an emperor too busy to care. But here's what nobody tells you at the end of this story. Rome did not disappear. disappear. The language survived. Every word you speak today, in English, in French, in Spanish, in Italian, in Portuguese, in Romanian, is built on Latin bones. 50% of English words come directly from Latin. The language of Rome is the language of the world. The law survived. Every legal system in the Western world. Innocent until proven guilty. The right to face your accuser. Contracts, property rights, the very idea that law should apply equally to everyone. The roads survived. Some of them are still there. You can walk on them today. Roman roads in Britain. Roman roads in France. Roman roads in Turkey. Still there. Still straight. Still pointing toward a Rome that no longer exists. The calendar survived. You use it every day. January, name for Janus. March, name for Mars. And the church survived. The Catholic Church, the largest organization on earth today, it is built on Roman foundations, Roman hierarchy, Roman administration. Rome fell, but Rome never left. And now, standing here at the end of this story, I need to ask you something. Rome had the best roads, the best engineering, the best military, the best laws, the best administration the ancient world had ever produced, and it still fell. Not because of the barbarians. The barbarians were a symptom. Coins shaved until they were worthless. Leaders chosen by wealth instead of wisdom. The gap between the powerful and the powerless grew so wide, so impossibly wide, that the powerless stopped defending it, opened the gates themselves. And I am not going to tell you what to do with that information. I am just going to ask, does any of that sound familiar? Familiar in any way to the world you live in right now, today? Because the most important thing about the fall of Rome is not that it happened then, it is that it can happen again. Rome believed it for 800 years. Rome was wrong. If this story moved you, if you learned something you didn't know before, subscribe, because next week we go inside the Mongol Empire, the most brutal, most efficient, most world-changing conquest in human history. And once again, you will be there, right in the middle of it. See you then.